Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Running the Bases podcast. We are here in Season 1, Episode 10. This is going to be another great one. I'm here alongside Ryan Blank as we get ready for this awesome edition. Sadly, no Marco or Nick this week, but Ryan was the one who's deciding to come along. But we don't have tons on the tab today, but we do have some interesting things to talk about. So are you ready to discuss today?
Very ready, very ready.
Okay, so we're going to kick this off with Jacoby Ellsbury. He's officially out from the New York Yankees. They basically just said, yeah, we don't want you here anymore. They basically fired him. I mean, they got rid of his contract. He's no longer allowed to play for the Yankees. So what's your take on this? I mean, basically disgraceful. First of all, it's a disgraceful contract, but second of all, the guy hasn't played in 2 years. It's so sad.
This was a waste of a contract for the Yankees. 7 years, $153 million. It's ridiculous for this type of guy. He had a couple good years in Boston, and then you just overpaid him during offseason, which I know a lot of Yankees fans were very iffy about, and it's kind of unorthodox for a player to go from the Red Sox to the Yankees.
Yeah.
But if you look at his stats, once he left Boston, he went downhill. For Ellsbury, once he left Boston, he went downhill, like I just said. He was an MVP candidate where he placed in the top 15 in votes in 2013. Then after that, nothing. Nothing at all. He fell off. He was killing the ball. He had been such a great hitter. He came off of a season where he had 31 doubles in 2013. The highest he reached with the Yankees was 27, which isn't a bad amount, but not what they expected from him. So it's a blessing in disguise. He was taking up way too much payroll. He was taking up way too much space because he wasn't doing anything. He was on the 40-man for no reason. When Cashman called him and told him, "Yeah, sorry, you're done," he was on a golf cart. On his phone, he said, "So I don't have to report to training camp?" "No." "So I don't have to report to spring training?" He's like, "No, you don't. You're done." He's like, "Cool, bye." He doesn't want to play baseball. His love for the game's gone. It's basically, once he got his money, he didn't care. And it kind of showed. And these past 2 seasons have been atrocious for the Yankees since they signed his contract, and atrocious by Ellsbury for not getting healthy to play for the Yankees.
Sounds a lot like Yoenis Cespedes. Yeah, it's just... I didn't know that about the phone call. It's pretty interesting. But he's not into it anymore. I mean, he would have been playing if he could. I mean, to miss 2 full seasons, I mean, I don't even know what he was injured with. I can't even tell you. I couldn't pinpoint it if I tried. So a lot of Yankee fans were rejoicing when they saw that this loser is finally out of New York. I think that every single Yankee fan, and even baseball fans, can agree that this is just like, it's necessary. This guy was terrible. He was so useless. He was dead weight in the franchise. But the next thing here was the first signing of the entire offseason that was big since our free agent predictions, because for a second there, I forgot about Will Smith, and then realized that he happened. So I came up with a nice, quick little analogy there, that this is the first signing since we did our free agent predictions, and what we were all wrong on him. Yasmani Grandal signing a 4-year, $73 million contract with the White Sox worth $18.25 million a year, which is, funny enough, that is the exact same amount that he was making in his 1 year with the Brewers. He signed a 1-year, $18.25 million contract, and I just find it interesting that he's getting the exact same contract, just on a different team. But for the White Sox, for me, I think it's a stupid deal. I mean, for Grandal, I don't know why you would ever want to go to the White Sox. Yeah, they're paying you money, but he can go to a winning team. These guys aren't going to win in another 2 or 3 years at the end of his contract, the end of his career. So I don't really understand the point behind this, but for the White Sox and for White Sox fans, it's just an exciting player that you get to watch for this year.
I feel like 18.25 has to be his favorite number or something.
Probably.
Because he's loving that amount of money. But I think it's a great sign for the White Sox. They've been lacking catcher help, and getting a solid defensive catcher and a great hitting catcher.
Hey, James McCann. The dude can hit.
But McCann's going to go play DH, and that's where he really belongs. McCann's not a strong defensive player, where Grandal makes up on the defense and is still a great hitter.
Well,
so
you also have Grandal's World Series appearance in 2018 where he made like 6 errors, but that's a different story. Or the postseason, like in general, he had like 6-7 errors, but still.
Overall, he's still a great fielding catcher. So, and that's what the White Sox are looking for. Now, they don't have to go spend money on a DH when they can throw McCann in there, who can rake.
Right.
He raked against the Royals this past year. He kills the ball, so that's great for them. I think it is also a stupid deal for Grandal. He could have gone to a team that was more win now competitive.
And he
instead
should
of the
have.
White Sox. He could have gone to a team like the Reds who were just missing two pieces and they could have been in the playoffs. He could have gone to any other team. He could have even gone back to the Brewers.
Yeah.
And he could have been ready to compete and be in the playoffs each year. But instead he's going to the White Sox who are getting there, but they're not going to be there this year. They might be there next year.
Yeah.
And
it's stupid.
I think that's going to hurt him in the long run, not being able to compete at the highest level against the best teams for a couple of years. So overall, it's a great deal for the White Sox, and the White Sox fans should be happy with it, but not the best deal for Grandal.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then the next thing, continuing with the White Sox, this one was quite possibly one of the worst extensions I've ever seen in my life. Jose Abreu signed a 3-year, $50 million contract extension with the White Sox.
There's still one that's worse than that to me, and that's the Ozzie Albies one, 7 years, $35 million. That's worse.
Oh yeah, no,
that's
absolutely.
worse to me.
Yeah, that's true. I completely forgot about that one. That was really terrible too. And Acuna's was worse than that too. I think Acuna got like $10 million a year or something.
7 years, $100 million.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so that's still really kind of low, but I think this is just a really terrible for Jose Abreu. You know what the problem was with this is that he's taking less money a year than he was getting with the qualifying offer that he was offered. Like, excuse me, why didn't you take the qualifying offer? He did take the qualifying offer, but why did you take it if you're going to take a lower contract? Like, why wouldn't you say, I'm going to start this and make an extension for next year, but instead now he's under contract for this year, worth so much less money, and this guy's worth easily $20 million a year. He should be worth 20 to 25, and that's no question. He would have gotten that if he signed with somebody else, and it bothers me that he decided to stay with the White Sox. I think it's a terrible move for him. It's not in his best interest, no question. This guy did not make the right move here, especially with the money that he took. Look, it could be like a Mike Trout situation where he wants to play on the team, but Mike Trout signed one of the biggest contracts in history. I mean, you can't...
The biggest contract in history.
Yeah, exactly. So Mike Trout loved his team, and he got paid the money he deserved. Jose Abreu got nothing for being on a team that he wanted to play on. Look, I mean, $50 million is a lot of money. You can't deny that. It just doesn't make sense that he took this contract.
Here's the thing. Jose Abreu is definitely worth more than whatever he got. I'm not good enough with math to know what 50 divided by 3 is just off the top of my head, but this man is definitely worth $20 to $25 million, especially with the climate and where players are being paid. Great hitter, a solid defensive first baseman. I don't know why he took such a cheap deal.
It's 16.7 a year, to be clear.
Thank you. I don't see why he took this deal. I really don't understand it. He is so much better than what this deal indicates. I know that he sees something in the White Sox as they are going to be competitive in the next couple years. But if you're going to stay there, get paid. And he didn't get paid at all.
Maybe that's why I picked a 3-year contract. He's saying if you're going to pay me so little, maybe do it for 3 years. And then after that,
I can leave.
Yeah. Or sign a bigger extension worth like 10 times more money. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I wish that, for certain people like this, I mean, Jose Abreu is quite possibly one of the most underrated players in baseball.
But here's the thing. With him signing a short-term deal, it's not going to matter if he can leave. He'll be 35 at the end of his contract.
Right.
He's playing this league a long time, and he's older now. He's 32 years old. He's not going to have much left in the tank when this contract is up. I still am just confused why he stayed first, because he could have gone to a team that would have been competitive now, 1. And 2, I don't mind him staying, even though he kills the Royals. But why so cheap? He undersold himself when he is worth so much more than what he's getting.
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll find out if it pays off. It's one of those things where at the end of this contract, we'll have to look back and say, was this worthwhile? And it's very obvious that it probably will be worthwhile, but it's going to end up being one of those things where he's most definitely, like you said, going to outplay the numbers that he's going to have on his checkbook.
There's no doubt in that. I think he'll outplay his numbers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing here is an interesting situation that is the Houston Astros. and what's going on. We haven't had the time to talk about it because 2 weeks ago there was nothing going on, so I didn't do a podcast. Last week we had our free agent predictions, and all of it has been really going on. So the Houston Astros are being currently charged with cheating in the 2017 season with the use of a camera system that they would look at and analyze signs and smash a garbage can every single time that a off-speed pitch was coming. And there's actually footage where you can hear a garbage can being hit every time an off-speed was being thrown down. And the problem with it is they throw down the sign and the garbage can's hit almost immediately after. It's not like there's a few seconds. They know right away. And there's also a video that I saw from, I believe, the ALCS, where when Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman were running down into the clubhouse, there was a table with a computer set up and a headset. And I didn't see a garbage can, but it was a table in the hallway right next to the dugout with a computer and everything rigged up. You could see a wire connecting, and that was what they were talking about. It was exactly what they meant. And there's just so much going on here. There's a lot to tackle between Mike Fiers. The Mets have been dragged into it because of Carlos Beltran. People are saying that Beltran was like practically the ringleader behind it. And if other teams were affected by it, I mean...
Cora could get hurt by the Red Sox.
Yeah, exactly. And then what'll happen to the Astros World Series championship if this happens?
You can't vacate it. I don't know why people are saying that. You can't just be like, yeah, we're going to vacate this.
They could... They might... No, I don't know if they can, but they can absolutely put an asterisk next to it.
There's already an asterisk next to it, knowing that they cheated.
That's
Ever
true.
since the first report came out, there was an immediate asterisk placed on that championship run.
So there's a lot to talk about. So I want to know what your take is on it.
My first thing is Kevin Goldstein. He's a special assistant to the GM, Jeff Luhnow. Goldstein reportedly requested that scouts see about picking up signs coming out of the dugout. What we are looking for is how much we can see, how we can log things, if we need cameras / binoculars, etc. So go to game, see what you can or can't do, and report back your findings. He was telling their scouts to go to games and try to use cameras, binoculars, or whatever to find ways to steal signs. Stealing signs is not against the rules in the MLB. It's against the rules if you use technology, and that's what Goldstein was trying to get his scouts to do. This is incriminating evidence against the Astros, and the Astros are going to get hit hard with this. I don't know what is going to happen. They're going to get a hefty fine for sure, but maybe international prospects aren't able to go there. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is going to hurt them, and it's definitely going to hurt their reputation for sure.
The quote that Rob Manfred put out was that punishment for the Astros was going to be something absolutely unprecedented, that's crazy. He's straight up saying that we are going to be seeing something they're going to be hit with something that has never been done before. They have never gone to such extensive measures to punish a team. And quite frankly, that's got to scare Astros and Astros fans. The players and the fans need to be worried because, I mean, whatever happens, your team is they're kind of screwed because they put themselves in a terrible position. And I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. I mean, I guess they thought they were going to get away with it and never get caught, but it doesn't make any sense why they would put their World Series on the line. I mean, yeah, I get it. They wanted to win. They wanted to get that World Series. It just doesn't make any sense to me as to why they would even think of doing this.
And certain teams cheat because they don't have the talent. The Astros have all the talent in the world. They're one of the best teams in the league.
But maybe, I mean, if you think about it, look, I don't know about you, but I know that if I was going up there knowing that a fastball was coming every single time, I could hit it. I mean, no, I'm not a major league hitter, but if I'm going, I mean, the main reason why I can't play baseball is because first of all, anytime I'd hit the ball, I'd hit it on the ground. But if you've got a guy who made it to the major leagues and they know that a fastball is coming, they can hit it easily. It's not that hard. So maybe they're not the best of players, but they're seeming like it because they're cheating and giving them. I mean, if you know every single pitch that's coming to you, you probably could hit 300 in the major leagues. There's no question about it. It's sad, but maybe they're not the players that we think they really are.
I don't think that has a thing with it. There are still such good players. I think even without these signs, they'd still be a great team. They wouldn't be as strong because I feel like they're a team because they didn't think they'd be as good without them. But they still got all the talent in the world. They've got some great prospects, and they've got some great talent in Altuve, Bregman, Correa, Springer. They're a top team in the league. It's just stupid of them to even think about cheating.
Yeah, and look, like I said, we're gonna find out what the problem is gonna end up leading to. We're gonna find out very soon. Well, maybe not very soon, but we'll find out. And when we do, it's gonna probably be a mind-blowing thing. It might even be, like you said, they can't. I mean, look, to be honest, not many teams sign international players, but we know that they have. But I don't know if that would be as impactful. But it will be a very, very interesting situation as that begins to unfold. We only have a couple things left to talk about, and this one kind of hits home, but it doesn't really anymore. But the Atlanta Braves signed Travis d'Arnaud to a 2-year, $16 million contract. I don't know if any of us got that right, but this is a smart signing for d'Arnaud, in that he's going to a team that is contending still, a team that is in the NL East he's going to have to play the Mets 19 times next year, which I'm actually quite happy about because I'm so excited to expose his true form. But I mean, he's not the best player out there. He signed an $8 million a year contract, which just goes to show you that people realize that what he did with the Rays is probably not the way he can actually play. They've seen especially the Braves, they've seen what d'Arnaud can do. He's not as good of a player as he was in Tampa. He's not a good defensive catcher at all. He doesn't throw the ball on target if he could try. I mean, the guy's got a lot of flaws, and I think that's the main reason why he signed such a small contract. I don't remember exactly where I had him pinned to go, but I think this is a smart move for the Braves. They have Tyler Flowers as their everyday catcher right now. And, quite frankly, that's just not going to cut it. And they saw that d'Arnaud did well with the Rays. And to be fair, if you take what d'Arnaud did with the Rays and even take it a step down, it's still better than what they've got. So I think Travis d'Arnaud signing with the Braves yes, it's something that came kind of out of nowhere, but I think it's a smart move for them.
Travis d'Arnaud. I don't have the brightest opinion of him because I don't think he's that good. I think last year was a fluke with the Rays.
Yeah.
And by the contract that he took, I think it's quite obvious. Great idea by the Braves to bring in a guy who you signed for cheap, who can prove that maybe he's as good as he was this past year. But the one thing about d'Arnaud is that he is just so flawful. And I know that's not really a word, but he's filled with so many flaws that most teams I don't think can get over. I think the Braves can because they've got Tyler Flowers, who is their starting catcher. He's not the best, but he'll do on the contending team. So d'Arnaud at best will be a backup unless Flowers gets hurt or just goes way downhill. But it's a smart deal by him to take on a contending team. And it's also a smart move by the Braves. Just bringing in a guy who you get for cheap, who can prove to be something very special. And
that also opens them up for some money. I mean, they re-signed Chris Martin. They also signed Will Smith. So they've spent some money. They have by far been the winners of this offseason so far. But
it's very early.
It is very early. That's why I said so far. But if this is any indication for me, they're trying to save their money for something big. I think they're going to sign Anthony Rendon, and I think this is a clear sign that they are trying to do that, making a small compromise that could end up being so influential in that they very well may be able to sign a guy like Anthony Rendon now because they saved a lot of money on a catcher. I mean, what Yasmani Grandal got was $10 million more than what Travis d'Arnaud got. And if the Braves wanted to get him, it would have been a very, very big dip into their payroll that they didn't necessarily want. That's saving $10 million a year to give to Anthony Rendon that they might not have been able to give him initially. So I think that's also a really great reason why this is just such a perfect deal for the Braves. The next thing here is a very smaller level guy, a guy we didn't even talk about in our free agent predictions, AJ Cole. This is a guy that I saw come up in the game. He was drafted by the Nationals. He was one of their highest touted prospects at the time. He came up to the big leagues and he was solid, but he wasn't as good as he was actually supposed to be. He kind of fell off a little bit. He's been on a couple of different teams over the years, but the Blue Jays signed him. I don't even know what was the terms of that contract. I don't even know how many years or how much money he got.
I thought it was a 1-year deal.
It probably was, which is why I don't know about it. But I'm thinking that if you're AJ Cole, he's a guy who had such great potential. And for the Blue Jays traded away their two best pitchers. There's no question. Aaron Sanchez and Marcus Stroman are gone. Thank you for that, Blue Jays. I appreciate it. But now you've got a guy who can actually be a star technically on a team, even though he was signed to a minor league deal. They very well may take him and run with him. He may end up coming to the big leagues and being their best starting pitcher. Because who do the Blue Jays have? They have nobody on their team.
They're a rebuilding team. They're trying to get young assets that they can develop real quick.
Exactly, and that's exactly what he is. I remember when he debuted with the Nats, he was okay, and that was really surprising. He had a few games against the Mets. He just wasn't. There were a few times where he was great. There are a lot of players out there that'll have little glimpses of greatness and then it'll go away. And the question is, was it just a fluke, or was it that they have that potential, they just haven't been able to reach it consistently yet? I think with AJ Cole's scenario, I don't think it was a fluke. I think he just needs to reach it and needs to hold it down. I don't by any means think he's going to be a Cy Young caliber pitcher, but I think he might be one of those guys who can get you a good 3 ERA throughout a season. And I think that would be very effective, especially for a rebuilding team like the Blue Jays.
I think it's a great contract for both of them. I think it's a great way for him to develop in the minors, and he can get a shot with this Blue Jays team because they're nowhere close to contending. They've got some great aspects on that team, youth-wise, but they're not ready to fully compete. They're going to be there growing and building their core. So, and I think AJ Cole could be a big part of that through what he's gone through. Yeah, it's a minor league deal, but if he could develop well and develop quickly, he could definitely find his way onto the big league roster and prove to be that 3 ERA guy for the Blue Jays.
And that brings us to the last thing to talk about today for the news part of it, and then we're going to have our topic of the week. But Mike Zunino, just now before this podcast started, well, a few hours before, Mike Zunino got signed to the Rays on a 1-year, $4.5 million contract with a 2021 option. We were just talking about Travis d'Arnaud. That is the team that d'Arnaud left. And they actually saved themselves a decent chunk of money with the signing of Mike Zunino. When he was playing with the Mariners, he was not the best catcher in the world, but he was probably the best catcher in the American League. And
whoa, Salvi.
All right, fine.
Whoa, Salvi. Whoa.
AL West. He was the best catcher.
Do not ever hate on Salvador Perez, bro.
I'm going to be honest, I forgot about him. And it's fair.
It's because he didn't play this past year.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. I didn't even think about him. So, Zunino was one of the best catchers in the entire American League, and even not in all of baseball because the NL had pretty good catchers at the time. But Mike Zunino he was a consistent player. The guy used to be able to hit not 300, but he would hit and he would hit some home runs. And I think the biggest part of that is that he knew what he was doing and he knew how to do it. And he was a great defensive player, and he was good.
Mike Zunino, not the best catcher. Hitting wise, had 9 home runs and batted .165 this year, but he makes up for it defensively. Defensively, he's still a great catcher, still one of the top catchers defensively in the league. As for Tampa Bay this year, he only appeared in 89 games, but he only committed 6 errors, had 37 assists, 7 double plays. He had a fielding percentage of .993. And over his career, the worst fielding percentage he has been .993, which was this past year in 2017 with the Mariners. Zunino's a great defensive catcher. He just needs to get his hitting better. Got to get his swing better. Got to be more consistent hitting. Because as a catcher, you also need to be able to hit well. And 165 is not going to cut it as a catcher. You need to be up in like the 260s, 270s area. And Mike Zunino can get back to that. It's just going to take some work.
Or you don't necessarily have to hit 260, 270 if you hit 30 home runs a year. And that's what he could do. I mean, I don't know his home run numbers, but the guy can hit a little bit. And you just have to tap into that. And you have to make it a consistent thing. So for the Rays, he was already on the team before, but now he's back for another year as their primary catcher. And my question will be at the time, I wonder if he can be d'Arnaud, although we thought it was a fluke, he still did well. And you can't deny that. He was a big part in the Rays' success, which is weird but it's true, which means that they need Zunino to produce as well if they want to have the success that they had in 2019. So that'll bring us to the topic of the week, which is, I'm fond of it because
of course you are. It's about the Mets. You had to make it about the Mets because the Mets are not in this.
Well, I didn't know what to talk about.
I'm just messing with you. It's a great topic, though. It's a great topic.
It is a great topic because it's very relevant, and it's the Mets possibly trading for Starling Marte. I've always loved Starling Marte since about 2015 when I was playing MLB The Show, and he was one of my best players. Starling Marte is awesome. I love the way the guy plays. He fields well. He hits well. He's a speed demon. I mean, he hits a lot. He hit 23 home runs this year, and he knows how to play. And he's an all-around. I don't know if you want to call him a five-tool player, but he really is. He can do anything on the field, and it's important that the Mets get that kind of guy. I mentioned it last week that I think the Mets are going to sign Cole Calhoun. The only problem is I would rather them get Starling Marte than Cole Calhoun. So if they do that, I will be a very happy camper. And I mean, the Mets are also tied to Mookie Betts. And if that happened, I swear to you, I'm coming into school with Mets gear and I'm dyeing my hair blue. I'm not kidding. That's how ridiculous it would seem, but how excited I'd be, because that just is, I couldn't even imagine watching Mookie Betts play in the Mets. I think I'd cry. So we'll take Starling Marte. Oh gosh, imagine having to settle for Starling Marte because you can't get Mookie Betts. Jeez. But I just wish that the Mets would actually do this. There have been a lot of rumors about it, but the good thing is the Mets have their eye on him, and that's what I want.
Starling Marte is a great defensive outfielder, and that's what the Mets need, is a great defensive outfielder who can also hit. Starling Marte, he hit .295 this year with 23 home runs and 82 RBIs in 132 games. The guy's still young. He's 31 years old now, going to be still a veteran player, and has 2 years remaining on his contract. He's controllable for a couple years, and he seems like the perfect fit for the Mets. Great defensively, great offensively, and this seems like a perfect fit for the Mets. And if I were them, you need to go out and make this trade. So what? You have to give up a couple prospects, but the return is Starling Marte and that defensive outfielder that the Mets need.
In my eyes, what I think the biggest problem will be for the Mets is that they traded away their best prospects last year for Edwin Diaz, who we have under control, by the way, till like 2023. And then Robinson Cano we also have under control until 2023. So neither of them did well. Edwin Diaz blew 14 saves last year, and Robinson Cano did bupkis for us, except for the few times where he was actually look, he played well at the end of the year. But having Starling Marte in this lineup is perfect. He's your leadoff guy. He can run, something the Mets have not ever had. I mean, this dude steals 20. He has 20 stolen bases a season. That is incredible. And to have that many stolen bases for the Mets is so valuable because that doesn't ever happen. The Mets don't have people who steal bases. The best thing they have is Ahmed Rosario, and the guy can steal like 10 a year. And I've just become so used to not watching the Mets steal that I think if Starling Marte were on this team, I'd be surprised watching him steal so much because I'm not used to that. It's not normal for me. I'm used to watching the Mets be a team that stays on the bases, doesn't move around ever since Jose Reyes he was not Jose Reyes anymore. So I don't know. If this can happen and Starling Marte is on the Mets by opening day, and first of all, I will feel 10 times better about the Mets' chances of making the playoffs, and I'll feel a lot better about the Mets' chances of actually winning next year. But that'll wrap up this podcast today. Not much to talk about, and this is probably the quickest podcast I've ever had, but I'm not going to complain about that because we covered a lot of stuff, and that's what I was hoping to do, cover some important things, and basically that's what every podcast is going to be from now until the regular season starts, is just talking about the things that have happened in the week, signing-wise, trade-wise, if trades happen. There will be obviously a lot more bigger things that happen over the course of the offseason. But the biggest move of the week, I think I should do that every week with what is the biggest move of the week. So I want to know what your thing is. What is the biggest thing we talked about today?
Definitely for me, it's got to be the Braves signing a Travis d'Arnaud, because when you look at it, they're trying to save money to go after somebody big. And they're going to try to go after Rendon, but ultimately I think he's going to stay with the Nationals, as I said on the last episode. But they're trying to go for somebody big. It may be pitching as well. You may see them go for a big name starting pitcher like Cole Hamels or someone like that, but you
Garrett
never
Cole.
know.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you on that, but it's okay. I want to say it's Yasmani Grandal. That was a very big signing that started the week of the White Sox, really, in my opinion. It began the week of the White Sox. It was a big move for them. It was a bold move that made everyone think, the White Sox are not just going to lie dead. It made a lot of White Sox fans a little bit too confident about their future, and I think we should go up and tell them that they're a little wrong and shouldn't be so confident. But I think for the White Sox, it is a big move for them, and it's a smart move, and I think that's our biggest move of the week. So that is it. Good podcast this week. Next week, again, don't know who's going to be on it, but thank you everybody for listening. I'd like to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your turkey day or whatever you eat on Thanksgiving. I don't know what you want to call it, but enjoy Thanksgiving. I know I will, and I will see you guys all next week.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.